All right, we'll give another minute before we really get rolling. But just want to introduce everybody here today on the panel. I will start with Martin, who is our IT wizard, and he helped set this whole thing up. Without him, we would not be in front of you right now on our Zoom panel. Then to my left is Elizabeth Rapp. She is our deputy AD for external relations and is going to provide some updates with everything going on. We've had a pretty busy last few weeks, and by the end of this week, have all sports playing. So to my right is Stephanie Lancaster. She is another Terrier Club employee. She's been doing a lot of work behind the scenes and also did a lot in the fall revolving around the Terrier ball and some other engagement opportunities that we had to do virtually. Jeff Sarvis here is our Terrier Club president. He has been with us for going on 5 years now, so quite a while. Helped get us to some levels that we think we can continue to improve upon. Brittany Wilbur, she is a senior tennis student athlete, very talented on and off the court. We'll hear from her a little bit later about some of the challenges with COVID and also the successes we've had. And then also our athletic director, Richard Johnson, who is actually not camped outside Richardson Indoor since it is raining, but he's in his office. Great picture there. I'm gonna share my screen here with a little PowerPoint, but we're gonna kind of go around and let every panelist have a different place to speak. I think everybody can see the screen, the PowerPoint. To start, I'm gonna turn it over to Jeff Sarvis to talk a little bit about what we got going on and then just Terrier Club in general for this year.
Hey, thanks, Luke. And everybody that's on this call and on this panel, there's a lot of work goes on behind the scenes, especially now, and especially the challenging year that we've been through. And of course, 21 is going to be even just as challenging. But it looks like we're moving forward with a lot of great things that's going to happen in 21. It'll be slow. But one of the things, I mean, I know you're going to hear from Brittany, but one of the things I want to make sure everybody understands on this call is number one, we thank you for your support. We thank you for staying on the roster, being part of the Terrier Club. Couldn't be more important than it is right now. But remember why we do this. And I want you to know that a lot of people on this call, I know you've been at Wofford, you see what we're doing as a school, as a campus, and really not the student athletes, but all the students at Wofford. And I think as hard as the students and the student athletes have worked. And if you've been on campus, and it's been a little harder the last 2 or 3 weeks because there's been more shutdowns, but you couldn't ask the student body, the athletic department, the school in general to do anything that they haven't done. And when our athletes and our students have worked incredibly hard, doing everything they could possibly do. And if you look at what's happened across the Southern Conference, and our numbers and us being able to play and what's happened to our athletes, it's a testimony how hard they've worked, how much they've listened, they've been disciplined, they've tried to do everything they could to be able to participate in their sport. So that's something everybody on this call can be incredibly proud of, but it's also why we have the call, and it's also why we do support them, because they've done their part. And now it's more important that we step up behind the scenes and do their part. And I know Luke's going to get into more of that. So I want you to keep that in mind, you know, how well and what all they've done and why we're here. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. We'll slide over, kind of get this going. This is just a slide about by the numbers. This is our last year, 1471 households as Terrier Club members, which is about on par with what we normally do, a little bit lower. We've had 221 households actually give for 25 plus years to Terrier Club, which is very impressive, very consistent. That's kind of where our base stems from, is this people kind of continuing to participate year after year, help us do different things. we had 188 student athletes receive some sort of athletic scholarship support this past year, which is an awesome number. We support over 350 student athletes here with different varying levels of support on and off the field, on and off the court. So that's something to be really proud of. And the last two numbers are the actual dollar amounts that were raised in 2020. The first one, a little over 1.2 million, is just the Terrier Club annual giving, and that goes and helps and supplements our scholarship support. I mean, that is the biggest need, and probably will always be the biggest need we have here at Wofford, is scholarship support. And when it goes to Terrier Club annual, it just gets put back in that fund and goes to support all of our student athletes. It's pretty it's pretty important that we've had this support for so long and can count on it from everybody. So just want to say thank you for that. And then we have 2.4 million in overall Terrier Club giving in 2020, which that includes Terrier Club annual, but also endowed scholarship giving and sports specific giving. So, I mean, you can really tell that everybody is pitching in and trying to make this thing work. Those numbers are a little further down. Sorry, I got a text message about the Zoom. Everybody's muted on the Zoom, so you can't speak out. Just wanted to clarify that. Just got a question. But yeah, so we're going to have some different goals for 2021. But thank you to everybody for helping us get through 2020. It was a tough year, a challenging year. I think Brittany will talk about it later, but all of our student athletes were disappointed, to say the least, not to get out and compete, but they are beyond ecstatic to get going this spring. This is 2021, the year ahead. This is kind of a significant year for the Terrier Club. It's the 75th anniversary of the Terrier Club. It actually started in 1946 as the 11 Club. And you can kind of see on the bottom, that's the new graphic we're going to use this year to signify 75 years of support for Wofford. It started back in 1946 as the 11 Club, and it was a band of individuals that came together and pledged to do $11 a year because that was all they could give. And it kind of rings true now. Some people think that their gift is not enough to really make a difference, and it is. We're just looking for support. We're looking for people to come on board and help us, help the student athletes every day compete. And in that token, our goals for this year, we're looking at 2021 Terrier Club membership households. You guys could probably figure how we got to that number. Nothing real scientific about that, just the year that we're in. We're going to go pretty ambitious and try to do a $2 million goal for annual giving with the Terrier Club, which is exciting. That'll be our first time crossing that goal. And I think we can get there. I think last year was such an anomaly and such a challenging thing that we're going to have people step up and help get to that number. And then the $3 million goal for overall Terrier Club giving. So that encompasses all scholarship support, all sports specific giving, any initiatives. If we can get back to some events like the Terrier Ball, Goal Line Club, some other little things that we're planning on doing this year. Because this is going to be one of our more complex years with competition. We're going to have 2 football seasons in one year. We're going to have 2 soccer seasons in one year. I mean, this is going to be a lot going on. So it's going to be all hands on deck on our end. And we actually had a group of donors come together and start something called the Terrier Relief Fund, which Richard will touch on later today. But that fund is pretty special. It's going to provide some extra dollars for the athletic department to make up for some revenue loss this year. Just because everybody's on this call, we probably experienced a little bit over a $1.2 million-ish revenue loss between some of our major revenue drivers, between tickets and Terrier Ball and our football game against South Carolina, which we didn't get to partake in this past fall. And this is going to help make up some of that difference. And these group of donors came together and they put up $250,000 of match money that they'll contribute back to Wofford if we can raise $250,000. And this is above and beyond the normal Terrier Club giving. This is really kind of just diving deep and digging in and doing a little bit extra. And got a special announcement to do at the end of this thing, but I'm gonna post a link in the chat later on so that everybody can have the opportunity to go check out the site. We're pretty excited about it. It's just for 2021. It's kind of a one-off, but I think it's gonna be a good thing to help us kind of bridge this gap between 2020 into 2021. And next, I'm gonna pass it over to Elizabeth Rapp, who's gonna talk a little bit about some different initiatives our student athletes are doing and Student Athlete Advisory Committee.
Thanks, Luke, and thanks everybody for being on this call and everything that you are doing. I cannot be more proud of our student athletes right now. I mean, the leaders that they are being on campus, wearing their masks, doing all the right things, because they want to play. Either their season was cut short or they didn't get to it this fall. They've really stepped up. And the Student Athlete Advisory Committee is an initiative that's across all Division I, II, and III. It's open to any and all student athletes. We sit at about 60 participants. We have at least 2 delegates from every sport, but then they all attend. Oh, getting a question about my connection. Is this better?
Yeah, I think your audio, at least on my end, is coming in bad, Elizabeth. I don't know. Okay, I can log off and do you want to just let Britt go and I'll try to jump back in? Luke, can you hear Elizabeth's audio?
Let's try that. Let's see if we can log back in on the phone. We'll let Britt go real quick. I think Elizabeth was about to intro Britt, but she is our senior student athlete on the women's tennis team and does a lot of other extracurriculars around campus. And you might have seen her on some of our specials through Terrier Vision and Wofford Terriers YouTube network. So we'll turn it over to Britt.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Brittany Wilbur. I'm a senior on the women's tennis team. I'm an English major with a concentration in film and digital media. Yeah, like Luke was saying, my extracurriculars. Currently, I'm doing a video series called Around the Dub. I had a lot of time in quarantine to think about ways to highlight the student athletes of Wofford College, and this was one of them. I'm interested in their story. I'm interested in getting to know them and what they do outside of just their sport, and know that they're more than just an athlete to Wofford and everyone watching. So this series is on YouTube. There's 3 episodes out. The latest episode just came out this past Friday, and it was Megan Dunn on the track team. The reason I wanted to do this, I already said it, but I really want to get one person from each team and just highlight who they are and highlight Wofford College all over all their sports. So thanks for having me.
Britt, can you talk a little bit about some of the COVID challenges over the past? I mean, stemming all the way back to last March when you got kicked off campus. You didn't know when you were coming back.
Yeah, like I said, I'm from Texas, so my coach advised me to move out. That was a struggle for me. I mean, I was like, I can't make an 18-hour drive and come back and move myself out then. So that was a struggle for me. But athletics-wise, obviously not having that season that we've been training for, we were doing very well in the year prior to that. We took 3rd in the SoCon. So just momentum change in our success, and also not being able to say goodbye to anyone, especially we have 2 foreigners on our team that we didn't know if they were going to be able to come back into the country or not. But it was tough. It was abrupt for sure.
And I think it's fair to say that y'all are over excited for this spring season to start.
Oh, for sure. We've already played 2 matches and it's been a lot of energy.
Yep. I think Elizabeth's back. We're ready to rock and roll back with Elizabeth.
I can be. Is this better? We're better now? Yes, okay. Sorry about that. Was Brittany finished?
She was just kind of wrapping up, but if you have any other questions for her, she kind of talked about the abrupt end of last March and also getting ready for the spring and how exciting it's been to get back out there.
Okay, good. So are you ready for me, Luke?
Yeah, please.
Everybody, I'm sorry, I apologize, but thank you for being here and hanging on. This group, like I said, they have been great leaders off the court and field of play, doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, but they've also stepped up with everything that has, been going on, and they have wanted to make a difference. And so we were able to have 5 in-person SAC meetings in the fall. We had about 60 participants, at least 2 from each team, and SAC, which is a Student Athlete Advisory Committee, is open to any and all students. And they put together a lot of stuff, listening to their teammates and things that they wanted to do. So first of all, we created this patch, which I don't know how to show from my phone, but I'll get to it. It's the One Love patch. You've probably seen it on the home men's and women's basketball jerseys. They'll be on the other jerseys, as well as there'll be a helmet decal for football. So that was created as an initiative to them. And we also did t-shirts for all of the student athletes. They did a virtual race against racism. And they also participated in all the NCAA and SoCon diversity and inclusion initiatives. So they haven't turned anything down. They've stepped up and have done everything. They put together several meetings where we had a mental health awareness panel, which included our athletic trainer, our chaplain, and a member from the wellness center on campus. They also had a social justice panel with our coaches on, how it's different navigating all of that right now. We had a mental health awareness week where we participated. We had stress balls and wristbands that they passed out, and we actually provided a food truck at a campus-wide event just to get awareness out on mental health. We're dialing it back a little bit for the spring just because there's so much going on, and we're kind of waiting to see the Boskers as our SB-like event that's at the end of the year. So that's kind of up in the air and to be determined. But what I am most proud of them is that they have a budget that the executive board controls themselves. And obviously it was drastically reduced this year because of not playing, the basketball tournament and all the hits that the NCAA took. And they still stepped up and decided that they wanted to still provide the senior suit program. So for those of you all that don't know, is that we provide a fitted, tailored to the individual suit for all of our graduating seniors. So even though, we took a hit and they weren't going to be able to do a lot of their other initiatives, they still recognized that that was important and that was going to make a difference for their teammates. And so we were able to still provide that program. So we're looking forward to doing a few more things this spring. But again, just proud to have them back out there and able to compete because that's what they want to do.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And now we are going to roll it over to Richard Johnson, who's going to talk a little bit about state of athletics, different things going on, and a look back and look ahead.
Thank you very much, Luke. I appreciate everybody's attendance. I think with everything going on with COVID, it's really easy to forget how we got here and what led to everything. And last year started off as a great year. We won our 3rd conference championship in football, 4th straight year going to the NCAA playoffs. Basketball had a good year under Jay McCauley, his first year, and we turned around and made it to the finals. Had a nice run in the Southern Conference and made it to the finals of the conference tournament for the 2nd consecutive year. So there's a lot of good things happening. Baseball, as Brittany said, we got abruptly ended the season. Baseball was 14-3, had just come off a win over number 14 Auburn, and COVID ended all of that. So we had a lot of momentum before we went into shutdown. But COVID continues to have challenges for us. As you know, we postponed all of our fall sports to the spring. The Southern Conference presidents voted to do that back in August. And so we've been kind of adjusting to that reality ever since. And there have been costs to us, both institutionally and athletically. And I think it's also important to understand that athletics at Wofford is not its own entity. We are part of the institution, very much an integral part of the campus community. So we are governed, if you will, by decisions that the college makes. And, you know, number one, we are a tuition-driven institution, and as a liberal arts college, our model is in-person instruction. So everything we've done this year was to be able to stay in person on campus with in-person instruction. And when I say we're tuition driven, we only have three sources of revenue. One is tuition, one is endowment and estate giving, or just endowment giving, and then of course Terrier Club and annual giving. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But if you're interested in what we're doing or how we make decisions, we have a Wofford Together webpage, and that can give you an update of where we are as it relates to COVID. Just a week ago, we were at level 4, which did not allow for any visitors to campus. It didn't even allow us to have parents at our athletic events. We were able, through I think some good mitigation efforts on campus, the decision was made to go to remote instruction for 3 weeks. And that allowed us to get a handle on the cases on campus of COVID, which were running much higher in January than they did in the entire spring semester, fall semester. So we're now back to level 3, which allows us to have some limited fans. We certainly can have students. We want to give them an opportunity to come out. And then, of course, we can have our parents. Upcoming events, there's only 2 men's basketball games left. And the men will play the Citadel Wednesday at home. Then we're on the road at Western Carolina Saturday. Next Monday, a week from tonight, Samford on ESPNU. Wofford gets its second exposure on ESPNU, and that's next Monday. And then, of course, the Furman, with the women are playing at Furman on Thursday and Saturday. The women are doing a little bit different model in that they're playing 2 games at one site. So they'll be at Furman on Thursday and Saturday. Spring football starts. Spring football starts this Saturday, where we have a contest with, and I had just lost my Luke. Something. There we go. We are at Saturday. We have Mercer here on February 20th. And that game can't come soon enough for us. We've had 2 coaching transitions. 2 weeks before the season opener, our defensive coordinator, Sam Siefkas, accepted a job. We thought he was headed to LSU, but instead of turning left, he turned right and headed north. And he is now a defensive analyst with the Minnesota Vikings. A great promotion and a great professional opportunity for Sam. Alan Smith, one of our graduates, he was the defensive line coach here. Alan just last week left us, and he is now the assistant defensive line coach for the Houston Texans. So great opportunities for both of them, and we're thrilled for them. And it just goes to show when you hire good people, they get good opportunities. Now, on the downside, that left us scrambling a little bit. But Coach Conklin has filled those voids and naming Rob Green from our staff as defensive coordinator. And then he just hired a new defensive line coach from Pitt, Brian Bing. We are going to have some games, fans at our games in football. It's all about safety, though, and we ask that you help us with that. We are continuing. We can't get complacent. We have to continue to keep the campus safe and healthy so that our students can continue to be in person. We do have vulnerable students. We have vulnerable student athletes that have autoimmune diseases, asthma, and even our healthiest student athletes get ill. We have had cases of student athletes hospitalized with COVID, and a recent graduate was very ill and has some permanent lung scarring from COVID. So we take this very seriously. We hope that when you return to campus for games, that you'll follow the guidelines that we'll be sending out. Tailgating is discouraged. Masks are mandated, distancing is mandated. And if you'll follow those things, we think we're going to be just fine. We have not played and done football parking in the winter before, and with the recent spate of wet weather, we're going to be unable to use some of our grass parking lots. So the B lot or President's lot will be closed, and we'll be using the paved parking lots. And then shortly after the game, 30 minutes after the game, to help keep the campus safe, we will close the lots and we'll clear the stadium, immediately afterwards. A lot of people have asked, what's the financial implication? Because, we have to this point sold no tickets. We lost the South Carolina football game, so that's a big guarantee, a check that we're not going to get. And of course, with last year's NCAA tournament being canceled, there's reduced NCAA distribution. So all those factors impact our bottom line in a negative fashion. So a group of people have gotten together. They have made a challenge for the Terrier Relief Fund, and that's going to help us immeasurably. So we're thrilled about that. In addition to being stretched financially, we're stretched right now with in terms of bandwidth. You just don't quite have the number of people to do everything that we're trying to do. So virtually every one of our sports are being played at the same time. And of course, we're not set up for that. Some of the things you'll see, we can't produce every sport on ESPN Plus like we normally would. Our sports medicine staff is swamped, and in addition to trying to do all a lot of them will cover a sport in the spring and the fall. Now they're covering both at the same time. In addition to that, they're doing all of our testing for COVID on campus. So that's a real challenge for us. In the Terrier Club, Luke and Stephanie are doing the work of a 3-person staff because we are in a hiring freeze. So we're down a position in the Terrier Club. And our budgets are tight, but we're getting by, and we're doing as good, I think, as anybody, and all of our staff has cooperated. And part of the reason for that is, because of the work of Chris Gardner, our Chief Financial Officer, our board, the financial oversight of the past years, and Dr. Samhat, we have done a great job of managing our resources. As I said, we're tuition driven. Part of that, thanks to the good work of the admissions team and Megan Tyler, our new admissions director, but Brand Stilley, our VP for enrollment. We recorded a record enrollment and a record class, freshman class, in terms of academic quality. So that's one of the reasons, we've been in a pretty good situation. And as stressful as this year has been, it's worth noting that we're having another record year for applications. So while we don't know what that's going to translate to in terms of enrollment, we do know that we're ahead of last year's record pace for applications, and that's a very good thing. Finally, I would ask you to, when you come to campus, set a good example, wear your mask, wear it properly, stay socially distanced, and follow our rules. And if we do all that, we're going to be able to maintain some sense of normalcy, and we feel really good about being able to get back to Wofford and what we always have done, meeting and greeting each one of you next fall for our normal fall and normal academic year. So until then, if you can encourage others to join the Terrier Club, we're trying to get to that higher level where we get 2,021 donors. That would be terrific because every little bit helps and the numbers matter. So anything you can do there to help us is greatly appreciated. So thank you very much. And with that, Luke, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Awesome. Thanks. Enjoyed hearing all that stuff. And there's a lot going on right now. So to echo what he said, there are people working around the clock trying to get this thing going. And it's really exciting, daunting, but exciting. Before we get into the Q&A, and we got a few questions that came, just want to talk about the Terrier Relief Fund once more. I'm about to post it in the chat, but the premise of it is to do a little bit extra, and we were able to kind of have this was donor driven, the idea, the raising, the match money, all of it was really kind of donor driven. But even in that, we have been challenged today by a separate donor that if we could raise $5,000 by end of the day today, that they'll put it in a $5,000 for the Terrier Relief Fund to match it to get this thing started. So I just put the webpage or website in the chat so everybody has that. I'm gonna share the screen real quick just to show, and this is gonna be a little bit like a month and a half long initiative that we're doing. That'll just kind of be out there. This is the Terrier Relief Fund. You can see we're at $1,510 of a $250,000 goal, so we have quite a ways to go. But it's going to be exciting and a challenge, and I think a really good thing to make up some ground for everything. And I just want to say thank you to everybody here that decided to join us tonight. We're trying really hard for the Terrier Club, and there's a lot of really, really good people that are investing in this thing. I think everybody's going to be pretty pleasantly surprised at the end of 2021 where our numbers are and how hard everybody's working, not just on staff and Jeff, but our whole Terrier Club board of directors has been pretty active here lately, and we're kind of restructuring some of that. So if anybody wants, please post in the Q&A and we'll read off some questions. I'll try to moderate that for anybody on the panel, whether it be Richard, Stephanie, Elizabeth, Britt, or Jeff. But one question, Richard, to start was how will you handle ESPN and the broadcasts with multiple events going on at the same time and a little bit limited staff?
Yeah, so we tried, we don't literally have the real bandwidth with the encoders and the equipment or the camera personnel to do multiple events. So we're restricted to that. And we are contractually obligated with ESPN to produce a certain number of events. And some of those have to be football and men's and women's basketball. So that's the overview of that. But then Elizabeth, if you want to unmute, I'll let you talk about how you guys decided on the external team, how you all decided to do the rest of it.
Sure. Yeah. So we met as a team to go back through again, to come through the ESPN contract, because we did have a lot of questions about Facebook Live, if we would be able to do that. But we did receive final notification from ESPN that would not be acceptable. So men's and women's basketball and football will all be, the home events will be. Then we made sure gender equity wise, so like men's and women's soccer will have the same amount of contests. Then we drilled down to conference versus non-conference, and then just went from there. All the coaches have been notified which of their events will not be streamed, just to make sure we were not missing anything, and they have agreed to it. And then we just ask you all, and please share with your friends and stuff too, schedules, postponements, everything, are happening all the time. So again, if we have planned to do a lacrosse match over a baseball game, if, that lacrosse match is postponed, then we will go and pick up that baseball game. So we've had a lot of questions about, will we put it up on the website? And we're not going to put it up on the website just because we know that it will be changing. So we will just try to get that information out to you the day of as best we can.
And we are updating the calendars, not necessarily the broadcast calendar, but we are updating the calendar. So if you subscribe, changes to the schedule should be shown automatically on the calendar if you go to our website and subscribe to our calendar.
Richard, another question. This is kind of just logistics of where we are right now, but can you talk about us pushing the spring football season or the football season to the spring, and just how that has affected every preparation for everything, anyway, from coaches and student athletes, but to how we operate on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. So when that decision was made back in back in August, and then we brought our team back, we were hopeful that we'd be able to play late September, early October. When the presidents though met and decided to postpone till the spring, the NCAA came up with some parameters in terms of how many hours per week, if you weren't playing in the fall, how many hours per week you could practice. So we basically went through drills and workouts and things of that nature, but not football, and then as what they ended up doing was flipping. So spring football became fall football. And we did that in November. So we were able to have our spring practice then in the fall. And then when we came back on the 4th, we did some conditioning, and then we started preparing again. So the coaches have been doing a lot of work. We were the only school in the Southern Conference to get spring football, traditional spring football in before COVID hit and everybody went home and everybody shut down. So that was somewhat of an advantage for us. And then we were able to continue while the student athletes were at home. We did a lot of Zoom seminars and a lot of film study via Zoom. So I was impressed by the amount of work and preparation that the coaches were doing and how they were able to teach our student athletes, even though they weren't physically here.
Thanks, Richard. I'll throw this one to Elizabeth. Is there going to be an FCS playoffs, and what will it look like at the end of the spring?
That really, Richard probably would be a better person, but yes, we are planning on it. So we are hopeful, and hopefully by then the numbers will be down and we'll be able, to host a few playoff games and have a few more fans in Gibbs Stadium.
And just so people do know, when in a normal year, it's a 24-team field. So there were 10 automatic qualifiers and 14 at-large participants. That's changing this year. So they're cutting the field from 24 to 16, and they're picking up another AQ. So it because there's no celebration bowl. So I think the MEAC champion is going to take an AQ. So what you're going to have is fewer at-large participants. It's going to be as few as 5. So that puts even more import on winning the automatic qualifier or the AQ for the conference championship in order to make the playoffs.
We had a question a little bit more about the match for the Terrier Relief Fund. The match today was from an anonymous donor, and they said if we could get $5,000 raised on day one for the Terrier Relief Fund, they would put another $5,000 in. So right now it looks like we're up to $1,510 for the day. It just went out in an email this morning, and have had a few more commitments that aren't reflective in there. But so any gift that's made today by 11:59 p.m., as long as it helps us get over $5,000, we'll get another $5,000 put in that pot towards that $250,000 goal. And then, Richard, another question that came in was just kind of what is the overall emphasis and biggest need for the Terrier Club? And I think I can kind of answer that with the scholarships question. I mean, we operate at a pretty high clip with the way tuition is and trying to cover those scholarships. And so every dollar that comes in towards scholarships really kind of makes a difference, a really big difference towards that number. And you can do the math in your head for what the tuition sticker price is times 188 scholarships and kind of get to the number that we need to do. It's pretty high. Everybody can get a calculator out and do the math. That's pretty high. So we got to continue to kind of fight forward and push and raise. And as Britt has shown today on the student athletes here are more than just athletes. I mean, she kind of took an initiative and ran with it, and it's an awesome thing. I put a link of it in the chat if you can go and look for it. But I think it's really kind of unique to get around student athletes that you can have a conversation with every day, and you might not even talk about the sport that they're participating in. So it's a lot of pride for myself and for everybody on this call, and thanks for being part of the team and pushing everything through with us. So,
Luke, you mentioned the priority, and we will take any gift, right? We can find uses for the money, but the push, as you mentioned, is for scholarships. And as we started the Terrier Club as the 11 Club back in 1946, post World War II, there were a lot of programs that dropped football, became too expensive, and so people were left to kind of, if they wanted to keep football, raise the dollars. And that was pretty much a genesis of scholarships for the Terrier Club. So that's always been our primary focus. And we also should mention our athletic endowment as well, because those dollars, the earnings off the athletic endowment, go in to help fund scholarship dollars for our student athletes. And some very, very forward-thinking people, two former trustees, Harold Chandler, Ed Weil, to name just two. But Joe Lassane went back when he was president, and we got the Daniel gift. We were allowed to use a Daniel match. Danny Morris and David Wood, my two predecessors as AD, they went out and captured a lot of those dollars. And so today, the market value, well, actually the fair market value of our endowment is in excess of this number that I'm about to tell you, but roughly we calculate our earnings on $45 million in the athletic endowment. So that's an incredible number, and one that needs to continue to grow as well as our annual number does. So while we'll take any and all gifts, it is Terrier Club, but that endowment number is very important to us and has been the genesis of, I think, the success we've had over the last several decades.
Richard, we got another question. Will concessions be available at football this weekend?
Yeah, so yes and no. Very, very basic, very streamlined. Waters, Cokes, that kind of thing. Packaged food like chips, candy bar, that kind of thing. They're cutting way back from a safety issue and safety standpoint. They don't want lines, and everything kind of has to be prepackaged. So we apologize for that inconvenience, but that's the best we can do. We're going to provide it to the extent that we can, but it won't be a typical. Nothing about this year will be typical, unfortunately. But we're going to make it work, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to get to see football and other sports, and we're excited about that.
And I don't really want to put you on the spot here, but can you kind of talk about your experience at Wofford and what you're going to do after you graduate?
Yeah, I can talk about it. So next year, I'm actually going to Quinnipiac in Connecticut. I'm getting a sports journalism master's and using my redshirt year to play another year of tennis. My dream is to become a sports broadcaster, so hopefully that leads me in the right direction.
You're on a good track. We probably should let you lead this whole thing. We'd probably be in a much better spot.
No.
So that's really all we have on the agenda. If there's no other questions coming through, we're excited. I'm really excited. I know everybody else is excited to get people back on campus safely and in a respectful and responsible manner. But it's going to be good to see everybody, even behind a mask, here coming up.
And Luke, one other thing, part of Brittany's, her portfolio, her body of work now, she starts graduate program. She's been able to do things, for us and our student-led broadcast. So that's another side benefit of what we're doing here in athletics and being able to help students like Brittany achieve her goal. And I know we'll all be looking forward to watching her on the network or whatever future network Brittany hadn't even been invented yet. We'll be watching you down several years down the road. But if you have any questions, you can shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to answer them.
Rich, we had one more question about attendance and how many people we think we can fit in Gibbs safely.
Yeah, so that number is going to be, give or take, 2,700, but it's not really that number, because when you start pulling down the parents and player parents, the pass list and all, and then the visiting team, that number for us is probably about 1,700. So we hope that's what it is. We're able to get in. Shelby's done a really good job, and before we got on the call, we were talking with Jeff, and Jeff was talking about how easy it was to follow that link and buy the tickets. And to Luke's point about build all the work that goes into this, Shelby Taylor, our ticket manager, had to build that stadium all over again under social distancing guidelines. So that's not easy to do, but she did it, and now you're able to go online and buy those tickets and buy those seats. And again, we're going to get through these 4 games, and then hopefully in the fall we'll be right back to our old configuration, and you can buy your season tickets, and we'll be back to normal. But for now, it's going to be less than 1,700. It'll be socially distanced, and it'll be different, limited concessions, and we won't be running around and pounding the flesh and saying, hey, welcome. We're just going to be glad you're here, but we're not going to stand and socialize with you.
And on that question too was about Richardson Indoor. I think Richardson Indoor, the number is parents and students essentially. And
yeah, it's very little. When you get all the students in, there may be room for a few, but there's not going to be very many people. It's going to be those cardboard cutouts are there to give us some spacers. And I wish we had more. I wish we were able to do more there. We just can't. And where there's only the 2 home games left. And I'll tell you, we do have in the midst of all this, again, you talk about what goes on behind the scenes. Our director of video services, another young, talented guy left. It was promoted and got a better job, and we were able to hire somebody, and he hit the ground running. Addison Harvey has done a terrific job. We're thrilled with his work. So Addison will be doing a quality broadcast for you on ESPN Plus, and you'll be able to be close to the action even though you can't be there in person.
Yep, all games will be on ESPN Plus, and we don't want to keep y'all too much longer, but just be on the lookout in your mailboxes. Stephanie Lancaster has done an incredible job and got some really cool 75th anniversary swag, so it should be hitting your mailboxes here soon. And thank you for joining us, and thank you, Britt, for making this a truly well-rounded thing with the student-athlete representation as well.
Thank you.
So appreciate everybody.